RWorld, and welcome back to RWorldTalk. I know I always say that I'm excited to have my guest, but this time I'm really excited. We've got Matthew Ledger with us. He is the Senior Vice President of Public Policy and External Affairs for our fantastic association. We lovingly refer to him as one of our GADs, and he happens to be a true friend of mine. We've gone hiking in the mountains together.
We have.
It's been quite the ride getting to know you, my friend.
And by some miracle, we have survived in those mountains together.
We have survived. We have survived, even with all the alcohol that was consumed. Okay, moving on. Welcome, everybody, to our Realtor Party episode. This is going to be one of the most important episodes, I think, that we have on this podcast because we really need our members to truly understand what the Realtor Party is all about. Why so many of us are major investors in RPAC, which feeds into the Realtor Party. So you're the expert on all this information. So why don't we talk about, well, first off, welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
A couple months since you've tried to get me on this podcast, and I've been pretty reluctant, but I'm happy to be here today.
Well, are you really? Truthfully?
Truthfully happy to be here with my friend.
Aw, that's so nice. So let's jump into the Realtor Party. Let's talk about what the Realtor Party does for our members. Let's take it right down to like a 5th grade level so that people really know why we're so passionate about it.
So when we talk about Realtor Party and we talk about RPAC, they're essentially the same thing. And so right now I'll go over a little bit about our department because, you know, I might be a little biased, but I think it's one of the most important departments we have at the association. We have a 3-person team. It's myself. And then we have Nate Parsons, who covers the Broward County area. Mm-hmm. And we have Sierra Smith, who covers St. Lucie County. And she also helps me with Palm Beach County as I get tied into a lot of other projects at the association. So the 3 of us essentially make up the Realtor Party, the Public Policy Department, however you want to call it. We all essentially do the same thing. I've been with the association for 13 years now this Labor Day weekend. Nate's been with the association now for just about 4.5 years. Okay. He came in right before COVID. And Sierra is on her 1-year anniversary this October. And so for the first time in a long time, we have a large department. We've been working on a lot of projects. But just to break it down to that 5th grade level, we do, one thing we pride ourselves on, it's, we're not just 3 GADs or government affairs directors as we commonly refer to ourselves to, and forget that people don't know what GAD stands for. Each of us represent a different county. In each of those different counties, each of us have a government affairs committee.
Right.
So we're very big on the committee process. So in Palm Beach County, in Broward County, and St. Lucie County, we each have our own government affairs committee. They both have a chair, a vice chair, and a committee of up to 20 people. Now, we believe that the committee process, specifically with government affairs, is important because when we're dealing with real estate-related issues in the community, for example, last night I was in Boynton Beach, I can bring those issues to my government affairs committee. Now, like most of our committees, a lot of them have been through the leadership process before, and they understand what the association does and what they stand for. And so when I take an issue, for example, last night, the city of Boynton Beach was talking about short-term rental regulations.
Wow, we've been battling that one for a long time.
Nate has taken the brunt of that in Broward, so we will give kudos to him for that one. And then we were also listening to impact fees. The city of Boynton Beach has a very low impact fee for parks and rec. And so last night they were considering raising it. Obviously, for any community or neighborhood that anyone buys into, parks is a big part of why they want to live there.
Right.
Beautification, schools, stuff like that, all factor into home value. And so
let me stop you right there real quick. Let's talk about impact fees because we may have people who are listening that don't even know what impact fees are because they're not involved with government affairs.
So impact fee, to simplify it as easy as I can, is a one-time fee on new development. So before I want to put a shovel in the ground as a developer for a single-family residential unit, I have to pay, let's say, $2,000.
Right.
And that goes towards infrastructure. That can go towards roads, fire, police stations, parks and rec, and there's a couple others that goes to as well.
Right.
The county has them, and most local municipalities have them. Like most local municipalities, they also like to look at these fees and give them little increases here and there. And so last night, the city of Boynton Beach was looking at increasing their impact fees on parks and rec.
Okay.
So we had brought that to our government affairs committee. We had an emergency meeting. led by our chairman, Brian Sharkey. We talked about the issue for probably about 45 minutes. And so the committee was pretty split on it. And at the end of the day, they decided they did not want to fight it, but they wanted to approach it in a different angle.
Are you saying that Matthew doesn't make the decisions, that it's an actual committee that makes those decisions?
Matthew does not make the decisions.
Okay.
Again, we're very heavy on the committee process.
Right.
Myself, Nate, and Sierra, we're staff, but you all as volunteers, as volunteer leaders, you're in the community day in and day out. I mean, you guys are the cheerleaders for those municipalities. So what some municipalities, what staff is really good at doing is making sure that municipalities are up to date on things they can and can't do. So the city of Boynton Beach did not understand that if the development was going to be for affordable housing, they had the ability to waive the impact fees. And so the first reading of that ordinance about a month ago, the mayor of Boynton Beach did not know that. We brought it to his attention in that month period. They built in an ordinance that essentially said that if the development was for affordable housing, the impact fees can be waived. And so the developer now can go through a process in the permit department to get those fees waived.
Okay.
And so that passed last night.
Is that part of the Live Local Act, or is that something that's always been in place?
That is something that has always been in place, but will also work with the Live Local Act that was passed this session.
Okay.
So again, it was a lengthy meeting. We had again, part of the volunteer process. We had 7 Realtor members last night join us at the Boynton Beach City Commission meeting.
I love when that
started
happens.
at 6:00 and it ended at just after 10:30.
Oh wow. Okay. Late
And
night.
so late night, but I think a lot of them. Kudos to Kelly Ray Murphy. She stuck with it towards the very end, and we had some good chat about local government, and she got to sort of, pay attention to what not only real estate issues were coming up, but last night there was a public comment section where they were talking from anything from boat charters on their new piers. They were talking about new baseball fields. They were talking about giving raises to the city commission, which was a very controversial one. And so
that was probably a lengthy discussion.
We heard just about every aspect of what local government tackles, and a couple of them last night were real estate related.
Okay. It's amazing when you look at the lineups on our government affairs committees. A lot of those people have served a few years on government affairs, and a lot of them are actually tied into the actual city commission, the county commission. They know the people that are sitting up there on the dais. So it's cool to watch the interaction and the fact that not only do you as the government affairs directors, but also the government affairs committee can have a direct line to the people who are making those policy decisions. So it's amazing that we have volunteers that actually know the players and can go out there and help us tackle some of those issues for the industry. But let's talk about how those people got into the seats that they're in, because we do have a candidate screening process that I know a lot of people don't really understand or know exactly how it works. So does Matthew make all those decisions?
Again, just like our issues locally and at the state, Matthew does not make any decisions when it comes to which policymakers we support.
Okay. So who makes those decisions?
So similar to issues that go to our government affairs committee, we have a candidate screening process. And so to start from the very beginning, we'll look at, for example, the next set of elections will be March 2024, and those will be local municipal elections. We'll start screening those races probably right before Christmas, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, because we do have a very quick, heavy schedule to start 2024. But essentially what we'll do is we'll send an email out to the membership to see if they want to participate. And they have to be an active member at the association. They don't have to be on any committee necessarily, but what they do have to go through is a candidate screening training.
Okay.
And so the candidate screening training is about a 90-minute training hosted by Florida Realtors. And there's a specific reason we do that, which we'll get into in a little bit. But that training essentially teaches them what happens the day of when we invite elected officials or candidates to come in and screen. It's first and foremost, when we screen, it's based on real estate related issues. That's the trade organization association that we are, and that's what we try and focus on. Obviously, a lot of things touch, real estate and communities and neighborhoods, And so, as you know, and as some of our leadership knows, we are looking at what that screening process does look like moving forward. But for now, we bring them in. It's usually done in person, but like anything else, we do it via Zoom now, and we run them through the day. These are the questions you ask, and it can be about impact fees, it can be about the millage rate, it can be about how do you solve the affordability crisis, how do you solve insurance, which we're still trying to solve. And so, we run them through that day, we run them through the issues, we run them through the questions, and so at the end of the day, our goal, staff's goal, leadership's goal is to make sure that those volunteer leaders are put in a position where they can succeed. Because when the time comes and we invite elected officials and candidates to come in, those members who have been through the screening are now in charge of screening that race.
Right.
So fast forward to December and we invite, all of the candidates running for, I'll just throw out a random race, West Palm Beach City Commission. Say there's 5 candidates. All 5 candidates will come in. They'll get about 20 minutes to interview. They'll have an opening, a closing, and in between they'll be asked a series of real estate related questions.
Right. So we're looking for the realtor champions out of those 5.
Correct.
Yep.
So, and we might not love all the answers they give, but that's for the screening panel to decide at the very end. And so it's important that everyone who screens is consistent throughout the whole process.
Right.
And then when we screen all 5 of those candidates in any given race, they'll have dialogue at the very end and decide and come to a conclusion on which candidate is best to serve the real estate industry.
Right.
From there, recommendation will go, and again, we're heavy on the committee process. Any recommendations that come out of the candidate screening will go to the local government affairs committee, and then it'll go to our Realtor Party trustees, which is sort of our umbrella public policy committee, because we do cover 3 counties. And then from there, it goes to our board of directors.
So those candidates will sit in front of us. We're going to ask them a series of questions. And I say us because I had chaired candidate screening many, many times. I served many years on government affairs. But they'll sit in front of us. They will do their screening. That then gets forwarded up to government affairs. Government affairs will approve the screener's recommendations or say, no, we don't believe because we have some other information that maybe the screeners didn't have. Mm-hmm. If it passes through government affairs, then it goes up to the trustees. The trustees say, yes, we would like to approve these people and we'd like to approve the recommendations that were brought forth. And then finally it goes to the corporate board, and the corporate board is the final one that puts their stamp of approval on it. And those candidates are now getting what from us? They're getting our endorsement.
Correct.
And they get to say that they are endorsed by Broward, Palm Beaches, and St. Lucie Realtors. And then they may also have some money attached to that endorsement. We make a contribution to their campaign.
Correct.
And where does that money come from?
Ooh. Before we get to the financial side of things, it's important to note that our association historically has one of the fairest candidate screening processes when it comes to different trade organizations that go through the screening process.
I'd 100% agree with you. I've actually had candidates sit in front of us that had gone through the Sun Sentinel, they've gone through other organizations, candidate screening processes, and then they had come to sit with us looking for that endorsement, and they leave the room saying, I can't believe how incredibly professional this organization is, and I feel like you actually vetted us, and I'm proud to receive your endorsement.
We skipped over one very important comment/fact.
Okay.
On who we support.
Yes.
Do we support Republicans?
Yes.
Do we support Democrats?
Yes.
We support candidates who support the real estate industry.
Exactly.
That's the most important thing to remember.
We're not red or blue. We're totally bipartisan.
So when it comes down to, and again, I'm going to reiterate it, when it comes down to why we support he or she or any candidate in any given race, it's based on real estate related issues.
Correct.
So
that's probably the most important thing for anybody who's listening to understand about the process, because a lot of people think that maybe because we have a lot of endorsements in one specific county or city, municipality, whatever the case may be, it could be because those were the only people that came to sit with us, because maybe in that municipality, they don't have any Democratic candidates. So we might end up supporting a Republican candidate, or vice versa. They don't have any Republican candidates. Like in Broward County is very heavy Democrat. versus Republicans. So I think it completely varies by where you are in the state, but especially within our jurisdiction, who's going to get those endorsements just based on who's actually coming to sit in front of you. And it has nothing to do with what party they're with. All we care about is what are the issues that we care about, and do they stand with us or are they against us?
And it's important to note, we brag about having, 42,000 plus members now?
Right.
We're not like most trade organizations like the police or the fire or the nurses and stuff like that. They all tend to mobilize behind, one or two issues. Mm-hmm. With the Realtors Association, any Realtor Association in any part of the country, our membership is so from over here to over here and everything in between.
Right.
And so, there are times, to speak bluntly, we'll support a candidate that, some people might not like. But the important thing is, and one thing that we've started to do probably about 10 years ago, is we'll send an email out to the membership, and it's targeted so that, we're not going to send a candidate out that so-and-so can't vote for.
Right.
So if we're going to send the West Palm Beach candidates out, it's going to go out to our West Palm Beach membership. And this is the candidate that we recommend based on real estate related issues. But at the very end of it, it also says that if you do not agree with our recommendation, you should still exercise your ability to vote.
Absolutely.
And what that does is, when a candidate is up for election, they're going to see that we have 42,000 members, and a lot of those members are active voters. And so when we talk about, and this is why I sort of took a step back from the financial side of things, more so than getting a PAC check or a financial contribution, that candidate now knows that they have a ton of voting realtors in any given district.
Right.
So, also very important.
Okay, so let's talk about that PAC check. Where does that money come from?
So RPAC, Realtors Political Action Committee, statewide PAC, national-wide PAC. We have a three-way agreement. So it's us, it's Florida Realtors, and it's the National Association of Realtors.
Right.
The money is voluntary, and so you can contribute to the PAC a number of ways, starting with dues billing. Every year, everyone will get their dues billing from the association, and that will cover your MLS, your local, your state, and your national dues. And on the dues will be a $59 contribution to RPAC. It's not mandatory. You can opt out of it. Unfortunately, at this point where we are, a lot of people do opt out of it because they probably don't understand what RPAC is or what it does.
And hopefully they're listening right now, and they will get it.
And so that's the first way. That's the entryway that you can contribute to RPAC. Other ways you can contribute, and we'll get to later on in the podcast, probably, is the amount of events that we do.
Yeah, we
and
do a
have
lot
been
of
doing.
events.
We've been doing 2 events a month, leading up until November, December this year. So there's many ways to get involved. But again, we spent the first half of this podcast talking about issues, candidates, and why we do the fundraising. So you look at it this way. We started the podcast talking about the policy side of the department and what we do. The other side of that is the fundraising side. And so they go hand in hand. And so we fundraise as much as we do. And we've built a pretty awesome RPAC Realtor Party culture over the past decade.
Yep.
We fundraise as hard as we do because we want to be able to support candidates who support our industry.
Right.
We want to be able to gather momentum and gather resources if we do need to fight an issue or get an issue passed. A recent example, in 2022, Palm Beach County put forward a bond referendum for $200 million. And it was going to go towards affordable housing in Palm Beach County.
Right.
Down payment assistance, expedited permits, stuff like that. And so the county, because they were in charge of essentially putting that forward on a ballot, they're no longer allowed to advocate for it or against it. And so they relied on community partners to go out and do that. So one of our county commissioners, Realtor Party champion, great friend, Commissioner Mac Bernard, approached us and said, hey, we need your help. And so with money that we've fundraised over the years, we were able to put together a series of mailers to our membership and to specific voters targeted in Palm Beach County. And we were able to help them pass that housing bond referendum in 2022. And so we're seeing the benefit of that with additional units,
right?
Stuff like that. And so it's projects like that we get involved in.
Yep.
So that's an issue that we have an example of. And then, the other side of the fundraising is the candidates. And so like Christopher said, we give them our endorsement. They get to put our logo on their mailers, and then they may collect a $1,000 check, or we might bundle up to $3,000. The amount given is based on, have they been a realtor champion for us in the past?
Right.
So if they're coming back in for screening, and they said, hey, we work well with you guys, we love what you do, we helped you get this passed, stuff like that. Chances are we're probably going to give that candidate a little bit more money because we already have that trust built. We already know that they're going to champion our issues when they go back to office.
Right.
So and the reason why we fundraise is, we want candidates, elected officials who support us in office, because at the end of the day, it makes staff, it makes our volunteer leadership jobs a little bit easier, knowing that we have the support in place already.
Excuse me. Let's talk about. Thank you kindly. Let's talk about. Let's say if we've got a candidate who is really out fundraising another candidate, or has put forth a ton of their own money, and our $1,000 check isn't going to get our candidate over the line. What are the other options that we have in order to make sure that that person has as much exposure, if we really want to get behind a candidate and make sure that they are in there as a realtor champion, as opposed to someone who is maybe not in line with the realtor issues that we're fighting for?
So the great thing about RPAC is we have a ton of resources through our local association, through Florida Realtors,
right,
and through NAR too. If we do decide that we want to go above and beyond, again, that's not a decision that Matthew makes or Nate makes or Sierra makes.
You don't make all the calls?
That goes back to the Realtor Party trustees.
Right.
So if I go to the Realtor Party trustees and I say, listen, we have a candidate. He's been a realtor champion in the past, but he's getting out fundraised, or she's getting out fundraised. Mm-hmm. We have the ability to put together certain funds to help with mailers. Mm-hmm. So we have a company that we use through Florida Realtors that will do targeted mailers to our membership. We can also target different demographics in the community. We can do robocalls. There's many ways we can bundle our funds and resources to make sure that we help that candidate get elected.
Okay. And, when we're talking about these candidates that we want to get elected, there's some serious issues that we've seen come up. Number one, being able to remain essential during the pandemic.
Correct.
I mean, you guys mobilized so quick when we realized that we weren't able to work, and it was like mind-blowing how fast decisions were made and how quickly we were able to sort of flip the narrative and get realtors, essential status. And we wouldn't have had that if we didn't have, the ear of all these different legislators that were in power making these decisions. And we were able to say, hey, Matthew, we need to get the team together and start making those phone calls. And you guys were able to reach out to each one of these legislators that we'd essentially are friendly with realtors, and we have always had their back. And say, hey, look, this is what the realtors need right now. We need to still be able to put people in homes because they need shelter right now more than ever because we're in lockdown. And you guys were able to mobilize that team and make things happen lightning fast. So for anybody who had sold a house during this boom, you could thank your government affairs team for working through that whole process and keeping us essential throughout the pandemic. I think that people have made record amounts of money in real estate sales throughout the time that we were in this pandemic. I know things are starting to cool off just a little bit now, but kudos to you and your team for making sure that we were going to be able to continue to sell real estate and people had the best years of their lives.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. A lot of the kudos needs to go to Florida Realtors too, with their relationship with our state folks and our governor.
Right.
I will tell you when. And I'm sure everyone feels the same way when we were in lockdown. There was a new executive order coming out every 12 hours, it seemed like.
It did.
And you had to read them. And we can read those as well as we can, but if we're missing something, the industry was going to be at stake.
Right.
And so...
Look at what happened in Pennsylvania.
Well, Pennsylvania, it took them almost 6 months to become essential.
That's crazy.
So I remember we were in lockdown, and I set up a home office in the den. And I got the TV on watching county commission meetings. And, every day at 5 or 6, Dave Kerner, the mayor of Palm Beach County, would come on, issue a new executive order. Well, I got to get on the phone with Kim Hansen, our COO. I got to get on the phone with Deanna, our CEO. We got to give them an update because we got to update our members, because the members at the time didn't know whether or not they were able to make a transaction the next day.
Right.
And
could you have an open house? Could you,
well,
all those different things?
Quite honestly, a lot of kudos to our MLS team, because we put together a program, and I'm not the expert in this one, but we did virtual open houses for a while.
That was amazing.
And we did put together, emails saying, okay, if you're going to do it in person, this is what needs to be done.
Yeah, this is the protocol.
And so we were policing ourselves before the county governments were able to police us.
Right.
And that went a long way, specifically in Palm Beach County, because when they first released their first set of executive orders and who was essential, nowhere on there did it say realtors or real estate services.
Right.
What the county tried to say was, well, you might be under banking, or you might be under XYZ. And that's not cutting it, because we could not go back to our membership and say, hey, you might be able to do your job.
Right.
That's not going to work that way.
No, that's
and so we were on the phone a lot of awkward times in the day, to the point where finally Palm Beach County did their executive order, Broward did one, Boca Raton did one, and finally the state said enough. And I remember the state did their executive order, and I forget what page it is now, but real estate services was at the top of one of the middle pages. And at that point, we knew that, all that hard work finally paid off.
Yeah, big time. Title companies were able to reopen. We were able to get out there and do our jobs. It was a glorious time. But that's the importance. What I was getting at with that whole thing is, these are major, major wins that are not possible if we don't know the people who are in the places making the decisions. And the fundraising that we do in order to keep this machine going and keep the advocacy efforts, so as successful as they are, it all takes those voluntary contributions to the PAC from all of our members. And we have a lot of people who are major investors that sort of pick up the slack for a lot of the people that are unchecking the box and never give a dollar to RPAC, that are, at the barbecue in line, but all they brought was a fork and they didn't bring a casserole to bring to the party, so to speak. So,
did you just make that up?
I think I used it in a speech a long time ago, so I was trying to pull
Did you use that in another podcast, or?
No.
Okay.
No.
Backtracking again, though, talking about real estate services were deemed essential. That's just not our realtors. In our Leadership Academy this year, one of the projects they're working on is for advocacy. And they're working on a group project, and Essential came up. And so your title companies, your moving companies, all those, we're also going to be at a halt too if that didn't go through.
Right.
So it's our membership and it's our affiliates. Right. So we got to give some love to our affiliates too.
We always love our affiliates. Shout out to our chair, Jameson Olson, if you're listening. Love you, honey. Okay, so let's talk about some of those fundraising efforts, how we get that money into the PAC. We've had great success with a tasting series that started during the pandemic, because we had to figure out something to do virtually. So that was a major hit, but we continue to do those. As a matter of fact, we've got the wine tasting event that's going to be happening this evening. So you should jump on to RWorld.com and see if you could still grab a ticket for that, or check one of our Facebook pages to see if there are any left. And we've got a bourbon tasting that's going to be coming up in a little while as well, right?
We do, and I am very excited about this one. We lucked out on September 8th, Okeechobee Steakhouse, which is just across the street from our West Palm Beach office. Mm-hmm. Whistle Pig will be in town. Stop, yeah. So Whistle Pig is based out of Vermont, up in New England, so it's near and dear to me. But we put together a 5-course meal, and they're going to do a tasting series. So they'll do some of their Whistle Pig 10, 12, 15, and 18. Some bottles that are very rare to get. And so I know we've done the bourbon tasting before, but we've done it virtually. And it was for those who remember, it was a big success.
Huge success.
And the wine tasting was virtual too, and that was also great. So we wanted to continue with it. So we've already had some promises from FR leadership and NAR leadership that they're going to make the trip down to Palm Beach. We're not
giving out any names yet. It's going to be a surprise. So you guys just need to get your tickets and get in the door at the Okeechobee Steakhouse.
We do have a limited amount of tickets. I believe we're capped at 75. But we're happy to have one of the owners from Whistle Pig come in and walk us through the tasting and have a good night with some good friends. It was great to do virtually, but it's even better to do in a small, intimate room with some of your colleagues and friends.
I think it's going to be amazing to have incredible food, actually have somebody from Whistlepig down here walking us through the tasting. That's going to be incredible. That's definitely a night not to be missed. And it's not like you could just go and do that anywhere. This is something that is really special. So I think that anybody if in our membership, and bring your friends if you'd like, buy some extra tickets for your friends and family. But it's really going to be an exceptional evening.
Can I plug a couple more unique events?
Go for it. That's what we're here for.
So we have two unique events coming up, one through Florida Realtors. 2023 President Mike McGraw is very heavy RPAC. And so he has done a pretty masterful job of traveling the state, visiting all districts. And our district is going to be last. So just in about a week on Wednesday, August 9th, we'll be doing cars and crafts. So that will be no knitting, but there will be a craft beer truck.
There are no crafts. There's no macaroni necklaces, none of that kind of
Origami.
stuff. Origami.
A lot of associations have the ability to do cars and coffee.
Right.
We're getting a little too late into the summer where it's a little warm outside.
Yep.
And so we found a pretty badass venue in Delray Beach called the Haggerty Garage, 58,000 square feet. They have over $500 million in inventory.
Those cars are incredible. We went and we were able to go and do a run through. Matthew and myself and Jared, Carlos, and Lily from Florida Realtors.
Correct.
All went and had a walkthrough of this venue to make sure that it was something that was really going to wow the membership. And the cars that were in there are things that I've only seen in magazines. I've never been able to see that carbon fiber Bugatti in real life. So if you guys want to see something incredible, definitely do cars and crafts. Craft brews, not crafts, arts and crafts.
You can craft too. It is family friendly, so you can bring your children. And if you do have a car that you do want to show off, it's $25 for an entry fee.
Okay.
And we'll park them outside. We already have about a dozen registered, and so
and $25 is your fair share for RPAC.
And it goes towards your 2023 RPAC donation.
Okay, awesome.
So then the other unique event we're doing, and I'll give kudos to our 2023 RPAC fundraising chair, Miss Amy Melendez. She has said that she's wanted to do a dueling pianos event for a couple of years now. And when we went to the Florida Realtor PAC training back in January, she sat down with a couple of the chairs who've done it in the past, and we finally got that off the ground.
Yep.
And
that should be a really, really fun night.
So Thursday, August 31st, down in Lauderdale by the Sea, we will be doing our first annual dueling pianos event. So we're excited about that.
Okay, very cool. And what's the location for that one?
That one is at Mickey's Downtown Bistro.
Mickey's Downtown Bistro. Okay.
I'm actually doing a walkthrough tomorrow afternoon. You want to join?
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do it.
Okay, cool. Okay, is there anything else that you want to share with us before I get to my final question?
Well, I'm a little worried what your final question is going to be, but the one thing we tell essentially every committee, regional board is, if you're having an office visit and you're looking for some content to fill, invite myself, invite Nate, invite Sierra, invite Amy, invite you.
Right.
Give us 5 to 10 minutes to talk about what we just talked about in 35 minutes.
Yep.
Because I have done a couple office visits the past month or so, and I went and spoke to a couple offices of 30, 35, 40. Not one person knew what Realtor Party or RPAC was.
My first broker told me to uncheck the box. He said, I don't know, just uncheck it, it's such a big mistake.
It is. And listen, we get it. As active realtors, you guys are busy. You're not in one spot. You're all over the place.
Right.
So we get it.
But as active realtors, we might not have been busy just a short couple of years ago if it wasn't for RPAC, which is one of those important points that people need to understand. There's a machine behind this industry, and we need to feed it. It
is, and it's a machine. It's a culture that we've built over the past decade plus, and it's a lot of kudos goes to past chairs, past presidents. They all look at RPAC and they take it very serious.
Yeah.
So all I ask, if you're a broker or you're having a staff meeting, invite one of us to come talk about RPAC, because I guarantee you once we have the talk and we tell you what the department does, I think a lot of light bulbs will go off and say, I want to get involved. Right. And it doesn't need to be, hey, I need you to write a check. it's, I kind of want to pay attention to the issues.
Right.
If you're going to go to a county commission meeting, I'd love to come with you and just see what they do. Because, right now we have a great core of RPAC Realtor Party leaders, but guess what? We're going to need that next wave of leadership too.
Yep. Well, the same way that your city, county, state, and federal government is there to work for you, you really need to make sure that you are in tune with the issues and what is going on right in your own backyard. And this association is here working for the members, and the members just need to make sure that they stay involved. Get involved in the Government Affairs Committee, get involved in the RPAC Committee, find out what's going on and find out how you can help keep this industry thriving. So, last question. It's an easy one.
Is it?
Tell us about a little Florida gem. Could be anywhere in the state, could be anything that you want it to be, whether it be a shop or a restaurant or a favorite beach spot.
Oh, I think you already know what I'm going to say.
Let's hear it. I do know what you're going to say just by that smirk you just gave me.
You want to write it down and see if it
begins with a C?
All right. So for those who know me, know that I do love craft beer.
Yes, you do.
There is a local brewery that opened up probably about 7 or 8 years ago in downtown Abacoa in Jupiter.
Yep.
They've recently opened up a second location in West Palm Beach. But as far as beer, as far as ownership, and as far as the staff that works there, one of my favorite places to go.
Well, you got to tell us what the name of it is.
Civil Society Brewing.
Civil Society Brewing. Okay. We're going to make sure we check that out. It's so funny because my neighbor came out the other day and he was wearing a Civil Society t-shirt. I'm like, where did you get that from? Because like you said, you've got one in West Palm, you've got one in Jupiter. I'm all the way down in Pompano Beach, down in Broward. And he said that his buddy goes there all the time and bought him that t-shirt because it's his favorite place to go. So I got to get a picture of his buddy and show it to you and see if you guys probably have been bellied up to the bar before and you didn't know it was my neighbor's bestie.
Once or twice.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, that's it from the incomparable Matthew Ledger, and we will see you here next time on RWorldTalk. Thanks for joining.